Join Edwin Frondozo on the Business Leadership Podcast every week for a unique program featuring insights and actionable items from the world's most successful business leaders. Hear firsthand the exclusive interviews and personal journeys on how today's transformational leaders made it to the top.
A true leader will show up differently. He will do the right thing. He'll make mistakes and own up to them. And communicating that to the group and fostering that culture is very powerful.
This is the Business Leadership Podcast, and I'm your host, Edwin Frondozo. Welcome. How are you? How's your day going? Well, thank you for taking the time to join me today. This is episode number 85, and I am really excited to share the conversation I had with Anil Gupta. He is a world expert on relationships and happiness. He has coached some of the world's most famous celebrities on the planet, including Mike Tyson, and was also a guest speaker with Richard Branson on Nectar Island. He enjoys helping people overcome obstacles that prevent them from living a fulfilled life and has appeared on stages all over the world. In our conversation, Anil takes us back to a time when he first met Tony Robbins and how that chance meeting changed the direction of his career. He shares a story on how he went from being broke to being an abundant man. He shares the G3 and how it could make a difference in your everyday life. We talk about the gratitude exercise, how you do it, when you do it, and where to do it. Our sponsors today are Pungo, a business payment solution that helps remove business payment friction by making payments fast, connected, and easy to use. The Business Leadership Podcast is a friend of the ITWC Podcast Network and supported by our media partner, IT World Canada. Now here we go. Welcome to the Business Leadership Podcast, Anil.
Hey, it's my pleasure, Edwin. Very happy to be on your show.
Well, I'm just really super happy this happened. For those listening, me and Anil actually just met each other yesterday at a huge conference here in Toronto where he was speaking, and we had met through some common friends, and we're like, let's just do a podcast while you're here. So thank you, Anil, for your time and your flexibility. I really love that. But I'd love to, start off, if we can, by introducing yourself to our listeners today, for those who may not know who you are, what you do. But really, what I'd like to know is if you could tell us a bit about who is Anil and what does he do when he's not working and helping business leaders grow?
Okay, so I'll tell you who I am. My name's Anil Gupta. I'm a ninja warrior, freedom fighter, and an unstoppable warrior that will move, touch, and inspire anyone who comes in his way. And that's my mission in life. My mission is to reach 1 billion people. That's 1,000 million people by December 31st, 2020.
Oh my gosh, I'm so happy. And hopefully we help you touch and reach those people and it resonates out there. So why don't we get a little more into that work and that touching a billion people? Tell us about it. What is your current roles or your responses or the type of work that you're doing? And obviously you mentioned 2020, you're trying to hit 1 billion people. Is there anything specific that you're going to be doing to get to there?
Well, there's one sentence that changed my life, and that was this: be so great that you cannot be ignored. And that's a quote by Steve Martin. And I added something a little bit extra: be so great that you cannot be ignored. And if you are ignored, it doesn't matter. I realized I had a gift, but I was playing a smaller game. I was comfortable. And as human beings, we love to be comfortable about being comfortable. And we are uncomfortable about being uncomfortable. And what we have to become is comfortable about being uncomfortable, because that's where you get the biggest growth.
Oh man, that was a lot of wordplay, and it's really talks about many of the listeners who might be out there who are either growing as an emerging business leader, starting a new role as maybe a manager or an entrepreneur, or hiring their first person, and I love that of being uncomfortable. One thing I did, and when I did my research, Anil, when I looked at your career, and for the listeners out there, you started a traditional career, I would say. You were an optometrist, and then something had happened within your career, and I'd love to get into that you changed focus. You started working with Tony Robbins, and now you're a world-renowned coach, you work with executives and their teams. I'd love for you to share a bit of you about your story, maybe some type of key decisions that you had in your past. Typically, there may be a difficult decision that you had to make that eventually allowed you to incrementally grow.
Yeah, I remember I was a doctor of optometry, had my practice in central London, and one of my cousins called me one day, and he never calls me, but he sounded different. He sounded enthused, and I've never experienced that in his voice before. So I was a little bit intrigued, and he said what he was up to, and he invited me to an event, so I attended the event, and that's how it all started. I really had no clue what coaching was. I had no clue what personal development was, because I lived in a world where that was not common or unheard of. So that's where my journey started. I attended one of Tony's events. Then I joined his Platinum Partnership. I traveled the world with him and really opened my eyes to a new world, which I'd never, ever experienced before.
So talk to me about that day where you joined that event. You heard Tony speak. I mean, there must have been, and this is probably a couple of years back now, but for you to take the initial steps towards something that was the unknown or the uncomfortable, as you said, how did that process look to you at the time? Or was it just really like, let's just do this?
You know, the reason I went along with my cousin was I was a little bit frustrated. I was a little bit disillusioned. I'd lost my focus and frustration, all of that. And then all of a sudden this man started to speak, and it resonated with me. The words that he said, the way he said it, the energy, the vitality, the thought processes, it really resonated with me. And I could feel a huge pull towards him and his methodologies. And I wanted to learn more, and I was up for it. I was enthused. I was energized. I was revitalized. And, you know, I got the old me back.
And from that day on, was it just like, this is it? Like it was a reawakening, I guess, per se, right? And you basically left your old career or your old life, right?
Really, it started then, ultimately leading me to find a new career. And I remember spending some time with Tony Robbins, and he said, Anil, why don't you coach for a living? I've seen the difference you made to me and to my friends and to the group. And I looked at him and I thought to myself, hey, how could I possibly be the coach? You're the coach. And as human beings, this is what happens. People see a greatness in us that we don't see in ourselves. And the secret is to realize that we have a gift, we have a talent, and that we should share that talent or gift.
So was it Tony and those circle of friends that you were around that really made you realize that greatness you had or that talent? Because obviously, you know, when I talk to people and people talk to me, they, you know, these are words. And sometimes for some people, if you were to tell them that, and I'm sure this is a lot of your work, Anil, is really understanding that it's in there and be okay with that, right?
It is. And it all stems from one master discipline, which is awareness. Awareness gives you clarity. Clarity gives you focus. Focus gives you action. Action gives you results. And results gives you momentum. Momentum is what causes the massive changes in people's lives. And the defining moment didn't come to me until 2008. And may I share that with you?
Yeah, 100%. I'd love to hear it.
So I invested heavily in the stock market and the real estate, and obviously everything crashed. And I lost everything. And to be honest, I was on the verge of suicide. I wouldn't eat with a knife just in case I did something stupid. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't walk in a busy street just in case I had 10 seconds of madness. And I was fortunate in being able to be invited to a private event in Miami where Tony did a one-on-one intervention with me. His wife did one. His wife's brother did one. Then my wife intervened. I was really stubborn in those days. I really realized that my identity was around money and things and ego. And then from that day onwards, I changed. And in that moment I changed. I did one thing that saved my life, and which was I gave. In the minute you give, in the moment you give, there is no pain, there is no suffering. And I started to give, and the pain disappeared. I started to give, the pain disappeared. And I thought, oh, this is good. This is interesting. So I followed that. And I would never have been able to do that without the awareness.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. And for those who are listening, when Anil gave me his business card yesterday, I mean, one of the first words is happiness. And there's a formula on here. I wanted to bring this up, Anil, because I love your business card, and it's sort of a reflection as well, so I could see myself in it. Right? It's H equals G3, and the first is give. Right? So tell me about the other two G's as well. It's give, grow, and gratitude is what you wrote on their business card.
It is. It's H equals G cubed, which means that it's all multiplied. So the first G is you have to give your time, your energy, your love, your commitment, your joy. Give your money away to other people, but not wanting anything in return. It's so powerful. As a society, we've forgotten how to give. And all of these things are muscles. We've not developed that giving muscle. Once you start developing that muscle, and I have an exercise for all the listeners out there, perform 1 or 2 or 3 acts of kindness today and see how you feel and see how the other person feels. And you'll notice a big difference. You'll notice a vibrational change in you. You'll notice a peacefulness because it's of pure intent. The second G is gratitude. You have to be grateful for what you have and don't focus on what you don't have. So, Edwin, I'd like you to do one thing for me.
Yes.
Okay, look at your hands.
Okay.
Back and the back of them and the front of them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, when was the last time you thanked them?
Wow. I can't even remember, to be quite honest.
They've done everything for you.
Thank you.
What was a beautiful thing you did this morning you were not able to do if you didn't have your hands?
It would have been pick up my daughter.
Yeah. Holding her hand.
Bring her to daycare.
Yeah. See, these are the small things, but they really are the big things. We take them for granted.
Wow, that's amazing.
It is, isn't it?
Yes.
How much would you give to get them back if you lost them? Everything.
Oh my God, I can't even imagine that type of situation.
And the second G is gratitude. Okay, we spoke about gratitude. I remember a time I was on Richard Branson's island and I slipped and fell. And guess what I grabbed with my left hand?
Your other hand?
A cactus.
Oh my gosh.
I had 200 barbs in my hand. I was very upset for about a minute or two. Then I was grateful. Why do you think I was grateful? It was because it was my left hand, not my right hand. The right hand is my tennis hand. That's the hand I used to play tennis with Richard.
Oh, wow. So your left hand grabbed the cactus, and you know what, that actually thought of something. I used to snowboard all the time, and I would always brace myself with my weak hand. Is that the same thing?
Well, no, because what happened was I was very upset, but then I've got this strong muscle which tells me, Anil, in this moment, how can you be grateful? And sometimes it's difficult. But then I realized, oh my God, it wasn't my right hand. I write with my right hand. I play tennis with my right hand. So in that moment, I changed my focus. And what you focus in is what you get. So if I focused on all these barbs in my hand, I'm going to be upset. But if I focused on, oh my goodness, it wasn't my face, it wasn't my hand. Thank goodness for that. It's just a muscle, and we need to exercise this muscle. So I have an exercise for your listeners to do, if I could share that.
Yeah, I'd love to. Thank you for sharing.
Write down maybe 30 to 50 things you're grateful for. And they don't have to be big things. It could be you're grateful for pen and paper. You're grateful for a front door that you could lock. You're grateful for a carpet. Anything at all. And notice, be aware of how you feel as you write them down. This one exercise is so powerful because, we're running around doing things and not being. We're not being grateful. We're not being giving. And it's the being that's more important rather than the doing. And I remember a time I was coaching a young lady and I said, write down a few things you're grateful for about your husband. And she said, I can't think of a single thing. Then, after a bit of coaching, she managed to write down 200 things.
Wow.
And that one thing saved her marriage.
That's a great exercise, and thank you for sharing that. I was writing a couple of things, and I could feel myself get into the present and really being thankful as well.
Another exercise I do offer people is to write down 10 to 15 accomplishments, things that they've succeeded in doing, like graduating high school, getting a diploma, winning a tournament, doing something that they've accomplished, winning a trophy, whatever it is. This one exercise is very powerful because sometimes we feel, oh, my life is a waste. I haven't achieved anything. But then if you look back, there are many, many things you've achieved, but we've not focused on them and we've not given them much attention. And when you start doing these exercises, your vibrational energy changes, how you show up changes, how you feel changes.
Yeah, no, for sure. Question for you, Anil, when you do these exercises, and I'm sure you get into these in a lot of your workshops and when you coach, is it doing these exercises, is it something that maybe for our listeners, is it something we want to do weekly, monthly? Do we want to keep these in our foresight so it's always in our mind?
Well, the giving I would do on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
Perform 1 to 5 random acts of kindness every day. The gratitude should really be a morning exercise, an afternoon exercise, and an evening exercise. But just say I'm grateful for, having an office, having a car, having the ability to pay for a metro ticket, or simple things,
mm-hmm.
and then do it during the day a couple of times, and in the evening a couple of times, just to build that muscle. And if I share the third G, which is grow, you have to grow emotionally, physically, spiritually, and mentally.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the beautiful thing about this formula is this: whenever you're feeling down, whenever you're not feeling on top form, always look at the formula H equals G cubed, and one of those 3 G's will absolutely be lower than the rest, way lower. So all you have to do is focus on the lowest G. If it's giving, start to give. If it's gratitude, start doing the exercise. If it's growing, work on growing emotionally, physically, spiritually, mentally. It's such a simple formula. It conforms to all the laws of the universe, and it gives you clarity, because sometimes you're not feeling well or feeling good or feeling excited, but you can't put your finger on it. This is a good, quick, fast way to get clarity.
No, that's amazing. I appreciate you sharing that. And I wanted to share a quick story with you, Neil, as you were talking about giving earlier. And I lived in downtown Toronto, which is a big city for those who've never been to Toronto. And I do little acts of kindness. I give to people. I say thank you. I even say hello, which is a give or a smile to me in my mind, is, to a perfect stranger. But I remember just recently, Anil, I had a $100 gift certificate for a voucher for a train ticket, and I couldn't use it. So I had told the teller, I says, hey, for the next person who needs to buy a train ticket, can you just give this to them? My gosh, the energy or the feeling just overcame me. It was a new feeling for me, because I always give little small things, but this was, $100 is not, it's pretty significant, but I felt my body, something went right over me, and it was like I was shaking almost.
Yeah, because all your values are lined up. Your integrity, your honesty, you did the right thing, And the beautiful thing, Edwin, is this: when you did that, you disappeared, your ego disappeared, you disappeared, and you completely served. And people will experience this, and it's a beautiful feeling. It is the most incredible feeling on the planet.
Yeah, you're walking away, right? I'm feeling that energy right now, or that shakiness, and the memory came back, and it was an amazing, amazing feeling. Something that I haven't really experienced in that sense for a long time, right? Because if I'm in the habit of giving a lot of small things, that's nice. I always feel blessed, and I have that gratitude that I have a lot of things to share and give, whatever it is at that fact. But that was a very recent experience. That's why it came to my mind as you told me about that. So I just wanted to share that with you and got your insight. But yeah, it's definitely an alignment, and it was amazing.
Yeah. And if you're aware of that alignment, beautiful things happen. So I'll share something with you that happened yesterday. So my mission is to move, touch, and inspire and serve as many people as possible. So I was on a street yesterday, and a man came up to me bit of a homeless looking guy.
Mm-hmm.
He couldn't speak. He had an address, and I pointed him across the road. So I saw him go across the road. Then I looked across on the other side of the road, and I saw the exact same address. And I thought, oh, that's where he needs to go. But I saw him going to Starbucks, and I thought, you know what? They may not treat him as well. So I waited to cross the street. I went into Starbucks, touched him on the shoulder and said, hey, buddy, come with me. And I took him across I didn't take him across. I just said, look, that's where you need to go. And I saw him go across. I made sure he got in and everything was good. But that was an alignment because I really didn't want to cross the street. I thought, oh, he'd be okay. Then I asked myself, Anil, is this in alignment with your values? And I said, damn, it's not. And then what you got to do? Hey, buddy, you got to go. And then it was easy.
Right. And that's that awareness where you start with, right? And really understanding who you are and what you want to do. And it makes you feel better. You like, there was no regret for you going across the street, right?
None whatsoever. I mean, I had a bit of a conversation with myself, but it lasted 1 second.
Yeah.
But before it would last 30 seconds. But as you develop this muscle, it gets easier and easier and easier. And then making the right decisions makes it so much easier. You don't have to think about it. The right thing to do here is this. The right thing to do is pick up that paper on the floor. But it's not my piece of paper. But the right thing to do is pick it up. Okay, I'll pick it up. And these conversations I have with myself last, half a second or less than a second.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I really appreciate that because I see that in myself and I see myself getting quicker at it. And sometimes you don't even realize that you're just doing the right thing sometimes, right?
It becomes second nature and it becomes who you are. And the beautiful thing is it becomes effortless after you exercise this muscle.
Yeah, no, for sure. Anil, I wanted to just switch a quick topic. I think it's very, it's aligned to what we're talking about now, but it is something that I had found very interesting when I was looking into a lot of your work and something that you mentioned. So I'm really interested to know why you believe that forgiveness is the express pathway to freedom.
It really is. Forgiveness is the express pathway to freedom. The quality of your life is dependent on the depth and authenticity of the forgiveness you extend to others and to yourself. See, we hold on to grudges, we hold on to pain, and it makes us ill. In the moment you forgive, you get freedom, but you cannot live a fulfilled life. You cannot live a joyous life without forgiveness. People are walking around with so much resentment, and the resentment is like you taking a poison pill, hoping someone else will change or someone else will get hurt. It's not going to work. Your life is about you. You are the author, director, film producer of your life. And by you renting out space in your head, which is the most valuable real estate in the planet, it stops the great, beautiful thoughts and the kindness that belongs in your head that is taken up by resentment.
Yeah, I could even think about, situations in my past and whether it was personally or people in my life. I remember forgiving and saying sorry as well on both sides. And there was a release and I felt good and really doing that. And I always practice and I try not to put any judgment or anything and really not to, like you said, keep that real estate in my head of being upset or resentness, because it just does nobody justice. And especially with a family and a young child in my life, I don't want to hold that energy around her, right?
Absolutely. And, people think that if you forgive, you lose. But no, it's not about the other person winning. Forgiving means that you win. If you forgive, you always, always win.
No, that's great. It's so true. And I really wanted to bring that up because that's something that, even with my wife, when we have conversations and within her workplace, I just said, you have to let it go and it's okay. You don't know where that person has been anyways, right? You don't understand. Maybe they have had a tough life and that's why you got the brunt end of the stick. So just forgive them and let them go. I really want to bring up the wordplay that you had earlier, Anil, because it's really I know it hits a tone with me and when I talk with people in my circles, but you had mentioned being, and if I get this wrong, definitely correct me, but it was like you talked about that we all have to become like uncomfortable about being comfortable and uncomfortable about being comfortable. Like, is that similar of in a sense of forgiving people as well?
But I mean, forgiving is going to be uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
So let me give you an example.
Yeah.
What was the most earliest example of great discomfort for you?
Oh my gosh. Earliest memory?
Mm-hmm.
I would probably say the ones that are coming up is probably when I had to go away on like a sleep or a camp that my parents had left me. Like I was going away from home for the first time.
Okay. How old are you now?
Me, I'm 42.
Okay. So go back 42 years. What was the most uncomfortable period of your life then?
All the way back then or all 40 years?
No, go back 42 years. Exactly 42 years.
I guess coming into this world.
Yeah. How uncomfortable was that?
Oh, I was crying if I remembered correctly.
Yeah.
I was 2 weeks late. I don't think I wanted to leave. I felt it was a cold world outside.
My goodness. So that was, the most uncomfortable experience of your life. Then, the next one would be learning to walk, learning to crawl. These are uncomfortable things, but we never gave up. Learning to talk, we never gave up. The amount of learning ability in those first few years was immense. But then as we get older, we become more comfortable. We don't want to take risks. We won't do things that may cause uncertainty. But with children, they're constantly doing it. That's why they grow so much.
Yeah, that's why they grow so fast as well. I mean, my daughter's 2.5, almost 2.5, and I see her growing every day and trying and learning and asking questions. And it's so fascinating.
It is. And, coming to the subject of children, we had this discussion yesterday. I asked people, what's the greatest gift you can give your children? And a lot of people say love, discipline, kindness, money. But it's, to me, and this is my opinion, is that the greatest gift you can give your children is give them the ability to handle life. So that when an issue comes up in life, they can handle it. And this is something that leaders can do to their employees too. Mm-hmm. Give them adversity, give them tasks that they may feel uncomfortable with, because if they start handling those, it means that you don't have to handle those. And it allows you the freedom to work on the business rather than in the business.
I mean, that's a huge learning. And when I talk to many business leaders, it's also, I mean, that's also trusting that you have instilled that type of knowledge in them and the right tools or environment for them as well.
And, I've spent a lot of time with Richard Branson, and this is exactly what he does. He allows people to mess up. He allows them to grow. He allows them to handle situations. I mean, the other thing he did recently was he allowed all his staff to take as much leave as they wanted to. Now, that's a very interesting proposal, because people will think, people are going to abuse it. But the thing is, people don't, because they feel trusted. They feel that they have to be honorable and do the right thing. Obviously, some people will dishonor it, but the results will show, and they may not be gainfully employed because of that. But that's a big, bold step, and it means that the boss trusts us. It means that he has faith in us. And when we have faith in the boss or the visionary, we will perform. We will stick our necks out. We will be more productive. We will show up differently. We will back up the company, which in turn affects the profitability and joy of working for that company.
No, I agree 100%. And I've read many of the newer like startup cultures are providing these like quote unquote unlimited vacations. And I think it's great. And it's definitely a trust and allowing people the freedom to do what they want in their lives as well, and to bring their best selves back to the business. Hey there, biz leaders. I hope you're enjoying the conversation that I am having with Anil Gupta. I was super happy to not only get the opportunity to meet with him in Toronto, but I had a chance to hang out and sit at one of his workshops. So if you are enjoying this conversation, and have any questions about this episode, comments, or any feedback, please join me on my free private Facebook group where I share daily insights, answer your questions, and connect you with other like-minded business leaders. Go to thebusinessleadership.com/FB group or search for the Business Leadership Group directly in Facebook. Now let's get back to it. Speaking about, I guess, employees and those who are working for a boss per se, what do you see, Anil? I'd love to get your insights on the biggest challenges facing emerging business leaders today.
The biggest challenges, I think, are communication. We don't always communicate effectively and powerfully and authentically. So there's always some miscommunications in the leadership roles. And this is where the authenticity and the vulnerability comes in, because a true leader will show up differently. He will do the right thing. He'll make mistakes and own up to them. And communicating that to the group and fostering that culture is very powerful.
Yeah, 100%. So where do you see the younger generations now who are coming up and sort of grew up in this communications, I guess, renaissance per se with social media? Emails are getting shorter and they're looking like texts. Have you worked with these younger generations now that are becoming executives and C-level type folks and seeing a real communication breakdown?
I see a huge communication breakdown, and I also see that their relationships are very, very, very negatively impacted because they just don't know how to have these relationships. They don't know how to talk, how to be vulnerable, how to really let go and have fun. They're focused on trying to get somewhere rather than be in the now and culture these relationships. Having a conversation with Richard Branson, we asked him, what are the most important things in your life? And he said, look, Anil, it's very simple. Relationships and health. So a lot of the younger generation really do not look after their health and really do not foster their relationships, because at the end of the day, that's all you have.
No, 100%. I totally agree. And thank you for really putting an emphasis on those things, because those are things that I try to communicate with the folks in my life and the community that's following me as well. I know we've mentioned Tony Robbins and him taking, you worked with him. I'm wondering, Anil, if there was anyone else who had a real tremendous impact on you as a business leader, or what you're bringing to this world. It could have been a mentor, it could have been family, it could have been your friend who brought you to the event. Is there anyone who comes to mind?
It's really Richard Branson. I've been to his island 9 times. I've spent a lot of time with him. I played tennis with him, and the way he shows up whenever he's talking to someone, he's in the now. He's totally focused on them. He's not distracted. I've very rarely seen him carry a phone. He doesn't even carry a phone. If he needs to make a phone call, he'll go somewhere else to make the phone call. I'll give an example. So we were playing tennis one day, and he would always beat me. And I asked him, hey, how come you always beat me? He said, Anil, you have no stamina. And I said, well, what do I do about that? He said, well, start playing singles. And I said, well, I don't really like playing singles. He said, that's why I keep beating you. I went back home and I started playing singles, built up my stamina, came back and I beat him. Yeah. Obviously, he wasn't happy. And I said, well, it's your fault, Richard. You taught me how to do that. So he got the tennis ball. He went to hit me. I bent over. He hit the ball and it hit my bum. And I said, hey, Richard, that's the best shot you played all day. He's so funny about things. And then we went for a coffee. And I said, hey, Richard, let me make you a cup of tea. He said, no, Neil, let me make it for you. It would be my pleasure. Now, how humble is that?
No, that's amazing. It's definitely serving. It's back to the give, right? And giving your time and serving people around you.
Really. And another example was having dinner with Richard. His chairman was there. Richard was there. I was in the middle, next to a very, very rich fund manager and his wife. So the fund manager was asking questions like, what's the best hotel? What's the best this, best wine and everything? Very money orientated. Then he got a bottle of wine out and he started pouring drinks out for the chairman, Richard, he didn't pour me a drink. He gave himself one and his wife one. And I thought, wow, why would you do that?
Yeah.
And I could have made a big scene, say, hey, you're leaving the brown guy out. What's going on? And, don't I get one? And blah, blah, blah. But this is how people show up. They don't realize it's about relationships. You have to build relations. You have to be kind. You have to be generous. You have to serve other people. Then we were having a conversation, and then I wanted to say something, but I couldn't get my word in.
Mm-hmm.
And he stopped everyone from speaking. He said, "Gentlemen, this man wants to say something."
Wow.
What do I say now?
Now you're on stage, right?
He has that awareness, and it's so powerful because the awareness that you have around business should be applied to your personal life. The reason your relationship may not be working is because you haven't given your partner enough attention, enough love, enough respect.
100%. No, that's great. Anil, with this podcast, I get the opportunity to hear what people are actually reading right now. So I'm really curious, is there any specific book that maybe you're reading now or you read in the last 12 months that you'd love to share to our listeners today that really maybe gave you new insight?
Really, I haven't read something for a while because I'm working on my second book. But there is one book I absolutely guarantee will make a difference in your life. But you mustn't read this book. You have to study it. And this book is called Think and Grow Rich. It is the most powerful manual on success, not just financial success, but personal success. He gives you 17 methodologies, 17 principles that compound each other on how you can lead a richer, fuller, more joyous life. And it's very, very powerful, and it's all doable because he breaks it down for you. A lot of people, for example, Jim Rohn asked Tony to read the book, and Tony came back and said, "Hey, I read the book." And then Jim Rohn said, "How many times?"
Yeah.
You can read a book. People think knowledge is power, but it's not unless you implement. So, read this book, then read it chapter by chapter, then implement. And you will achieve more than you ever thought you could achieve because it takes away the doubt and it gives you clarity through awareness.
Oh, that's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. I to be quite honest, over over the hundreds of conversations, I think you may be the first one to mention that book. And I do have that book as well, but I think you just reminded me to read it again. So thank you for that. Anil, I know you mentioned that you're working on a second book, so definitely let us know when you're about to announce that and when you launch. I'd love to share that with the community. But are there any upcoming news, milestones, any events that you'd love to share with us?
Actually, I do a lot of masterminds, private events, but I'm going to be holding an event in early January where it'll be a 2-day event in Orlando, and this is the most incredible experience. You'll see miracles happen before your eyes. You'll see people forgive their parents or their father from 20 or 30 years ago. You'll see a father reunited with his child, a mother reunited with the child. You'll see people find a sense of their mission, passion, and purpose. You'll get tools and methodologies on how human beings behave, because we were never given a manual. And, we sabotage our relationships. We say the wrong words. We say things that we don't mean, and we don't know how to say what we really mean. So it's a very powerful event. It's a hands-on event. It's a one-to-one. I'll be there doing the coaching, the interventions. They're very powerful. I don't know the exact date yet. I've got a manager who's sorting the dates out, but it'll be early January. I'll be happy to give you the details later on once I find them out.
Yeah, definitely let us know. Let me know for sure, and I'd love to share that with you, and definitely look to try to get there as well, Anil.
Can I give you some coaching?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, so if I said to you, "Hey Edwin, I'll try and be on the call at 10," what would you say to me? What would you feel?
I would feel that you may or may not be there at 10.
So the word "try" is a very powerful word for the mindset. Do not use that word. Say you will or you won't, but be firm. I will be there. I will make every effort to be there, as opposed to I'll try and be there. I'll try and do that for my wife. I'll try and do that for my son. I'll try and do that for my daughter. Not really. Catch yourself. So many people, and I'm guilty of it too, use the word try. But just having that awareness and changing one word can make a drastic impact on the mindset.
100%. And thank you for calling me out on that, because I call people out on that word as well all the time, Anil. So I definitely needed that. And I am a true believer that language is powerful, and you have no idea the words that you're using. If you're not even aware of the words that you're using, it's really changing the way your day may go, right?
Oh, absolutely. So let me give you an example. I would always leave the toothpaste lid off the toothpaste tube, and it would annoy my wife. And I'm really stubborn, so I would do it deliberately. Then one day she said this to me, honey, whenever you leave the lid off the tube, I lose some love for you.
Oh, man.
Holy moly. It's not what she said, it's how she said it.
Yeah.
And I realized, wow, she's right. Why would I do that? And then I completely changed.
It's huge. I mean, and it was the way she said it. It just hit the tone. You're like, oh, I mean, why am I even playing these games, right?
Yeah, I had no idea the impact those words had on her. And this is a problem for all of us, even as leaders. We have no idea the impact we have on people. Sometimes when you say no, people think you're saying no to them,
Mm-hmm.
but they don't know that. But instead of saying no, you could say, hey, would you let me think about that and let me come back to you? That would be a nicer way to handle the situation. But a no often means rejection. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. There's something wrong with me. I don't belong here. And this is what human beings do when they hear that word.
That's really huge. And I was, as you were saying that, Anil, I was thinking about my daughter. Like and I'm sure you might remember this with your family. That's like every word she says right now. and I have to say, she's not saying no to me. She's just not agreeing with the situation. And it's every situation.
Yeah. And the secret is you accept it. You accept her. And that's the definition of love. Love is acceptance. If you accept your daughter, she can get away with everything.
That's what my wife says. Just being considerate of your time, I want to make sure I'm having a blast, Anil. So
I have plenty of time. Yeah. I want to serve people. I want to serve your listeners. I want to change their lives, your lives, everybody's lives. I'm happy to speak forever.
I love it. I love it. And I might even get you on one day in the future. The invite is there to join me on some of my live podcasts where I'd get you as a co-host, and we could do specific calls. And we actually, it's pretty amazing. I had one recently, Anil, yesterday, and I had 190 live listeners. So people are asking us questions. I had people actually join us on the call. And it's like you could do live coaching. It's pretty profound platform that I'm working with some of the founders here in Toronto, but definitely open to that. I wanted to ask you though, Anil, it's a real fun question, and I'm sure you probably know the answer to this. But if I were to ask any of your team members, past, present, colleagues, business partners, like what's the best leadership quality that Anil has? What do you think they would say?
The best leadership quality is to do the right thing. Have integrity.
Hands down. Everyone would say that, right?
I don't know what everyone say, but that's something I value a lot. Mm-hmm. I like leaders to be vulnerable, authentic, caring, loving, purpose-driven, mission-driven, and care about the community. Because if you do the wrong thing as a leader, it really does show up, and it magnifies. It's horrific if they did something that wasn't in line with the values of the company or the culture of the company. And it's that lack of integrity that really kills culture, kills businesses, kills respect.
No, 100%. And taking the high road, I know quick stories on my side when we're working with difficult customers with, high technology projects in the past. I've always tried to take the high road whenever the case was, and sometimes take the responsibility on my plate, even though it wasn't there, just to show that, I don't want to keep pointing the finger around the circle. Someone has to take leadership of this, and let's just get to the solution, right?
Really. And you said something interesting, difficult customers. Really, there aren't any difficult customers. The reason we say that they're difficult is because they haven't found a solution to their problem.
Mm-hmm.
So really, are they being difficult? Maybe. But if we found a solution to their issues, would they be difficult? No. So it's that awareness to realize, and also as human beings, we love to be right. Yes. We're very righteous. So if we say, oh, this is a difficult customer, they will be a difficult customer. So let me give you an example. So I fly a lot, and one day a flight was delayed or cancelled, and everyone was very rude to the service agent. And I came up and said, hey, ma'am, look, I know you're very busy. Look, I just want to say, look, the way you're handling this is amazing. I know it's difficult, but if there's any way that you could help me, I would appreciate it. If you can't, I'd be willing just to wait. She did everything for me.
That's amazing, and it's really understanding and putting yourself in their shoes, because as it brought up a memory for me as well. And it was a recent one, and I was at the grocery store, and when the lines are long, Anil, people are really frustrated. People are in a rush, right? And I don't know what came onto myself, but I asked the person who is the cash register, says, "Are you new here?" He's like, "Yeah, it's my first day." And I said, so I told him, I said, "You're doing a great job. Don't worry. No one here is in a rush." Everyone behind me heard me say that, and they all looked like they relaxed after, because everyone's always feels like they're in a rush, and they're like, why is this guy taking so long? He doesn't know the codes of the fruit or the vegetables. He has to keep asking people. So when I got up to the line, I really just asked him, I says, are you new? And it was pretty profound. And I was really impressed that I had that awareness, actually.
And it's a beautiful thing. Now you've given the same thought to other people, and they might start changing. They might think, you know what? I understand why some people are going through what they're going through. And, the thing is, Edwin, we never know what people are going through. We see someone having a problem in their lives, or we don't see it. Someone's mother may have just died. We don't know. Mm-hmm. Someone's wife may have been diagnosed with cancer, mm-hmm. or their child. We don't know. And sometimes, we need to get into other people's shoes and just be a little bit more understanding and forgiving.
Yeah, no, definitely. 100%. Anil, before we end, I'd love to get some final thoughts, observations. And to be quite honest, we've gone over so much. I'm really grateful for your time. But ideally, I'd like to leave with our listeners some type of actionable recommendations that maybe they could leave from today's conversation to those who are either an emerging business leader, moving up within an organization, or even an entrepreneur that's just growing and scaling now.
The number one thing is this: be so great that you cannot be ignored. Show up differently, show up more powerfully, show up with more energy, vitality, show up with a bigger purpose, show up playing big, show up as a new you. Be so great that you cannot be ignored. And if you're ignored, it doesn't matter. This one thing, I promise you, will have a dramatic impact on your business, on your life, in your personal life, your family life. Be so great that you cannot be ignored. Just be this amazing thing. Be this amazing greatness. Be this amazing person. Be unstoppable. Find the greatness in you. Be unreasonably kind. Be unreasonably joyous.
I love it. That was a mic drop, Anil. Thank you again. To close, Anil, if you could just tell us where we can find more information about you, the work you're doing, the events that you'll be handling, or anything else you'd love to share with us today.
My website is immediatehappiness.com. My email is Anil, ANIL, at immediatehappiness.com. My book is called Immediate Happiness. If my mission is to move, touch, and inspire 1,000 million people. If there's an opportunity to help young people or to speak in front of an audience, I'd be more than happy to do that. I'll fly all over the world. I'm flying to London, Vienna, Frankfurt next month to speak and coach and guide people. I'm available to serve.
Anil, thank you for taking the time to join us on the Business Leadership Podcast today.
No, Edwin, it's been a pleasure to speak to you and to have met you yesterday. I love your energy. I love your commitment, and very grateful to you.
Thank you so much. That's it, Biz Leader. Thank you for joining me on the Business Leadership Podcast. That was episode number 85 with Anil Gupta. If you want to learn more about Anil, his work, or anything else we discuss, please go to thebusinessleadership.com/085. Our sponsors today are Pongo, a business payment solution that helps remove business payment friction by making payments fast, connected, and easy to use. The Business Leadership Podcast is a friend of the ITWC Podcast Network and supported by our media partner, IT World Canada. Please join me on my free private Facebook group called the Business Leadership Group, where I share daily insights, answer your questions, and connect you with other like-minded leaders. Please subscribe to the podcast on Spotify, iHeartRadio, iTunes, or wherever you listen to your podcast today. Thank you again. Edwin signing off.
Thank you for listening to the Business Leadership Podcast at thebusinessleadership.com.